Howdy neighbor, how is your garden growing? Me in my garden? Well, today I want to talk to you about the food and flowers you can be growing in the month of August right here in the Sunshine State. So whether you live in North, Central, or South Florida, this is going to be the video for you. As always, I'm going to be using my handy dandy Wild Floridian garden planner to give me lots of ideas on what to plant, when to plant it, plus tips and places for me to track my harvest and notes on my garden. And if you want to pick up a copy of your 2025 Wild Floridian garden planner, you can still get it at www.wildfloridian.net/planner. And starting today, we're going to be doing pre-orders for the 2026 Wild Floridian garden planner. So if you want to lock in your copy today, go ahead and click this link right here. Let's talk vegetables. Whether you live in North, Central, or South Florida, technically you can still do hot weather crops. Makes sense because it's hot outside. And if you're not familiar with hot weather crops, this is going to be everything from yard-long beans, Seminole pumpkins, Everglades tomatoes, or hotter peppers like cubanelles and banana peppers, things like okra, roselle, cranberry hibiscus, yard-long beans, and sweet potatoes. And this may really mess you up because you're like, wait, what do you mean we're almost done with hot weather crops? It's hot out because summer is July, August, and September. And if we are in August, we've got a lot of hot weather left. But the thing is that our hot weather crops, well, we started them a long time ago so that they could be finishing at the end of summer and in early fall. So we really don't have a lot of time left. Now, my South Floridians, you could still, because you guys stay warm and hot and warm most of the year with maybe a few days that are cold. I know, I grew up down there. You can see in my garden these hot weather crops like roselle and okra and sweet potatoes, and you can see the yard-long beans back there. They all get really big and they need a lot of time to produce their harvest. So since we have that limited amount of time before we start heading into warm weather and then eventually cool weather, it doesn't feel like it, but it's gonna happen eventually, we want to stick to doing really established transplants if we're going to get something started at this time of year. Now, if I was in South Florida, which that's where I grew up, I would be thinking if I'm going to do hot weather crops, I would start sweet potatoes just because it is one of the few crops that can go almost the entire year, if not the entire year. And while I might not get a harvest this fall, you know, when it comes to Thanksgiving and Christmas, I can get the plan established and start getting my harvest going for late winter next year or spring and get some good harvest then. But if I was someone who did start these hot weather crops, let me give you some tips about them for the month of August. First off, okra. When it comes to your okras, you want to harvest your okras before they get large and woody. And here is an example of one. Oh, let me get it. And here is an example of one that has literally, you can see how woody it's got. Depending on the variety, oftentimes once they're past 6 inches, they are heading into their woody form. And if you're new to growing okra, that might feel like a total loss. But here's the thing, if it's gone too far along, no worries, just save them, let them dry out, and then save the seeds so that you can grow more next year. And then keep your eye out for some of the smaller ones to either use as snacking or to take inside for your gumbos, or I know some of you guys just like to roast them and throw a little bit of butter and salt on them. For me, when it comes to doing snacking in the garden, I like grabbing them when they're this small. Whoop, where can you see them? When they're only an inch or two. These tiny little guys are really refreshing to eat. Freshen the garden here in the heat of summer. When it comes to plants like our roselles, we should be keeping an eye out for those hibiscus flowers because afterwards they're going to start producing the calyxes. Now mine have just been putting a lot of time into just growing and growing, which is great because that means it's going to be very well established so that by the time it does get some hibiscus flowers on it, which I don't see any, we can put a really good harvest and make a really good cranberry jam for Thanksgiving time. For those of you guys growing cranberry hibiscus and you're wondering what am I supposed to do? Well, remember, this plant is all about the leaves. So if you have a cranberry hibiscus or someone gifted you one, you can go ahead and just take the leaves and eat them, or you can use these in a tea. It's like a leaf when it comes to texture, but the flavor, it's got like a slight citrusiness to it. So if you were gonna put them in a salad, know that they are fibery. They're not going to be a very soft leaf, but they're not too rough either. So they're kind of like Goldilocks, just in between. But they definitely will have a little bit of citrusy taste. So if you're going to put it in a salad, I would definitely lean towards things that have like citrus vinaigrettes or citrus in them because it'll just augment and accent that flavor. When it comes to our vining plants like yard-long beans and sweet potatoes, it is all about controlling the vines at this time of year. Oh my gosh, they are ready to run everywhere. So help them out and just continue to re-trellis them back up into the places that you want them. Here, go on there. That's where I want to. And stop them from going the places you don't want them going to. This is one of the few maintenance activities I will do at this time of year, is just getting my vining plants to stay on the trellis and stay out of my beds. Ooh, I'm getting a lot of rain. Other plants that should still be going strong at this time of year is, of course, you're gonna have things like banana peppers. And when it comes to your pepper plants, I know I'm heading back in the shade. It's too hot right now. The sun's too intense. But remember, your pepper plants, especially things like banana peppers and cubanelle peppers and a lot of our hotter peppers, well, they can go all year round. So make sure that you stay on top of harvest, making sure that you keep them upright. Give them a little prune every now and then if they're leaning too much or their leaves are dragging on the ground, because these plants, they can go the distance here in Florida. But really, if I live in North Florida and Central Florida, and really at the very late end of August for South Florida, I'm gonna be focusing my time on starting warm weather crops, because we are headed back into our classic vegetable garden season, which is why I'm wearing my Hello Spring shirt in the middle of summer. So if we were gonna be thinking about starting warm weather crops, we need to be thinking about all the classics like tomatoes and eggplants and peppers and corn and beans. Yes, those crops we can be getting started right now. So what does it mean that we're heading back into classic vegetable garden season? Well, just as a friendly reminder, for us here in Florida, our classic season where we grow those traditional crops that people are used to thinking of when they think of vegetable gardening, it really starts in summertime and is going to go end of summer, fall, winter, and into spring. And then at the end of spring and then early summer, we move into our less traditional, those are our tropical vegetables at that time of year. But because of that, that means we need to be thinking like we're heading into all of the normal stuff. We need to be ordering our seeds. We need to be going through all the seeds that we already have and realizing we have 4 packets of 4th of July hybrid tomatoes and that we don't need to buy any more. We should be thinking about laying out a plan. I just did a video recently where I went through exactly how I plan my garden. So if you really need some hand holding and see step by step how I do it, you can check out that video. We also need to be doing things like getting all of our supplies ready. That means clearing out our old seed trays, maybe giving them a little bit of a rinse, sweeping up the area. I know I just did a big clean to my area to get it back to organized, because you may be like me and you just kind of get the project done and dump it. You know, just dump all the stuff somewhere. And so I took a little bit of time this last week and cleaned up my area so I'm prepped and ready to go. The other thing to be thinking about is, are there any supplies that you need to stock up on or you need to replace? So do you need to get any soil for topping off your beds? Do you need to get any seed starting mix for starting your seeds? Do you need to get any new hand shovels? Hand rakes? I don't know. Do any of you use hand rakes? I don't use them, but maybe you need them. It's also a good time to go ahead and clean up your tools. I say that to you, I probably won't do it, but I'm just saying, like, it could be a thing you do. It's also a good time to stock up on any of your fertilizers that you use when it comes to, here, I'll actually show you. If you're curious what exactly I use, I mean, I'm a pretty simple gal. So what I use is I use these seed starting trays. They are by American Tray Company. I picked mine up from Epic Gardening, but I know a few companies sell them. I think VEGEGA also sells them. I have my seed starting trays. This allows me to not run outside and water every 5 seconds, because at this time of year, the sun is intense and the evaporation is strong, and it's very easy for the water to go away really fast. And when you have baby seedlings, well, they need to maintain water. I also have some of the bigger trays from American Seed Company. I like these ones just because they're harder and I can reuse them, and I do reuse them. So I like using these ones for some of my plants that have bigger root systems, or I use them to up plant from these trays into these so that I can give the plants a little bit longer before I move them out to the beds. When it comes to fertilizers for me, I just use this, I call it shake and bake. It's technically shake and feed, but if you ever hear me reference shake and bake, this is what I'm talking about. I just grabbed that. This is just some buckets from Target where I dump excess seed starting mix that I ended up not using. I also use these for just mixing stuff. Over here, these are also a new buy from Target. These are my little harvesting baskets. These are awesome. They were just like in the $5 section. You can grab them from there. When it comes to seed starting mix, simple gal, I just use the seed starting potting mix. It says so right there, seed starting. It makes your life easier. When it comes to filling the bigger trays, I just use a traditional potting mix. And if I top off my beds, I just use the garden soil. So now you can see I'm a very simple girly. Are there better products? Are there more efficient products? Probably. But when it comes to things, I just tend to keep it simple. And if you're looking for a simple place to start, this is what I would recommend. Oh yeah, and this is one of the other things that I do is I make sure I do kind of a tool wrangle up. I don't know about you, but my tools will tend to migrate. But I just tend to use a classic shovel when it comes to the garden. And I just have a few of them because, you know, you might be like me, you just place them everywhere. I also have some pruners and some more pruners. And I think there's another, oh, yep, and another set of pruners. So you can see my tool set is pretty simple. I also have these loppers. These are from Fiskars. The other ones are from Fiskars, and these are just generic. I don't know what. You can pick up whoever. But these ones are really good for trimming things like my mulberries and stuff like that. And that's kind of my main stuff, minus pepper cages here and some tomato cages there. But now that you've seen kind of the stuff that I use, when it comes to seed starting, let me give you some tips, because here in Florida, it can be a little bit tricky. When you think about northerners, they're all worried about seed starting and snow. And when it comes to us in Florida and seed starting for classic vegetables, it's not about the snow, it's about the rain. Because in the month of August, well, we have what I like to call smashing rains. This is when we are at the peak season in August and September of getting just these massively monsoon storms that take your little teeny tiny babies and just smash them to death. They like just Hulk smash, like boom, done. So we have to do a little bit more to protect our baby plants. One of the things is you could put them on a patio lanai. If your patio is not like mine, you know, you have more of the screened lanai. One, that gives you some shade cloth. What level of shade cloth that is, I don't know, but that can work really well for protecting the seeds and kind of dispersing the rain from coming down so hard. Places like this patio where it's fully covered, while very nice for me to sit on and protect me from the sun, are not as good for my seedlings because this is not enough sunlight for them. So I will actually move mine out there and risk the smashing rains. But there are some other things you can do even when you're out there to kind of give them some protection from those smashing rains. And yes, they're coming. We might have even seen some recently, right? We had like a tropical depression, tropical storm. It's just like constant at this time of year. If you have your seed trays and you're looking for a place to give a little bit of protection for your seedlings, is do take advantage if you have planted plants like your roselles or sunflowers to put the trays below them. Because these bigger plants, they can totally handle these heavier deluges, you know, where we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain in a day. You can put them below. It'll help protect them and break up the intensity of the rain. It's a little tricky though, because you do need to also think about how are your seedlings going to get sunlight. When they're very tiny, I'm talking about this big, you don't need a ton of sunlight. You just need a few hours of it. So using things like the roselle can be okay for that first week or two, but then you're gonna wanna move them to some sunnier locations so they don't get leggy and start trying to grow in all sorts of directions. You see me use this strategy with things like the sunflowers, though this is not a great time of year to get the sunflowers going. But think about what other plants could give a little bit of protection down below, like an okra, just so they don't get intensely smashed by rain. Oh yeah, and so they don't get totally destroyed by the sun, because your classic warm weather crops, well, they're warm weather crops for a reason. They come out of regions that aren't quite as tropical at this time of year. So they need a little bit of sun protection. You can use things like shade cloths, or if your patio is screened in, or you can use shade from other plants. But remember, here in August, we're at UV index 11, 12, down South Florida, maybe even 13. I mean, this is some of the most intense sun. Even my mom the other day said, she goes, I thought the ratings only went up to 10. I was like, yeah, spoken like a northerner. Here in Florida, we go way past 10. And those baby seedlings are not gonna be able to handle a full day of intense sun. So give them a little bit of protection in those first couple of weeks so that you can get your seeds started. So you may be wondering, I love the tips, but Jacqueline, what seeds would you be recommending for me to grab for my garden? Well, I'll just give you a few of my favorites. As I said, I did a full seed planting video and you can see all the things I'm exactly gonna use, but here are some of my favorites and ones that I know are gonna be working really well in my garden. First up, you know I talk about them all the time, 4th of July hybrids. This is a medium tomato that if you're interested in something that grows really well here in Florida and can produce a lot of pounds for a little plant, this would be one that you can grab. You can usually grab it at Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, Walmart, but I know at this time of year, seeds start to get kind of a little weird at the stores, so you might not be able to find them. You can order them online too. So if you're looking for an easy variety, check out 4th of July hybrids. Another one that I'll be doing is, of course, Cherokee purples. Cherokee people, of course, originated from the Georgia area, and so we know varieties that work throughout the South tend to do well in Florida when we plant them at the right time of year. So Cherokee purples, these ones did really well. And typically Southern Exposure takes a little bit longer if you do order them online versus I did just order some stuff from Burpees. This came in under a week. I would give yourself about a good 10 days before you usually get these orders. So check out Cherokee purples. When it comes to peppers, I'm gonna be doing Charleston Bells, which you can also get from Southern Exposure, and I'm gonna be doing Carolina Wonder, but I just ordered my seeds and they don't have them anymore at Southern Exposure, or at least they don't right now. I know a lot of you who were looking at my members video, or was it my regular video? I don't remember which video, but y'all were telling me it wasn't. While Southern Exposure doesn't have them, people like Elise Pickett at Urban Harvest and Jara are selling them. So we love supporting a small business. So go ahead and grab Carolina Wonder seeds from them. Or if you know of another company that's selling them, go ahead and drop that down in the comments below. When it comes to eggplants, you know I'm gonna be doing pink tongues. These were recommended a couple years ago by one of you guys, and I'm sold, and Ben wants more eggplants. So we're doing eggplants this year. And again, it's through Southern Exposure, though you can pick up pink tongue seeds from other companies too. And those are just the beginnings of the warm weather crops that I'm gonna be trying this year. There's probably gonna be some other stuff, but I would love to hear from you. What varieties would you recommend to your fellow Floridians so that they can go ahead and grow tons and tons of tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, corn, and more. I'm gonna give you guys a view of the garden. I am definitely staying in the shade. The sun is too intense at this time of year for me to be out directly in it at this time of day. So August becomes the month where most areas, even if they were in drought, have started to catch up on their rain. And in this month, we typically get over 7 inches. So what that means is you're gonna definitely wanna consider turning off your sprinklers, because August and then in September is the time of year where we get those deluges of rain where it can be up to 5 inches, 6 inches in a day. Some places could even get up to 10. Once we had Fort Lauderdale get 24 inches all in a single day. And that means not only do you not want your ground oversaturated, you need to have some space for that water to run through. Though at some points, there's only so much you can do. The other reason you're gonna want to turn your sprinklers off or definitely do some skips on it is because overwatering is gonna potentially create mold and fungus problems for your plants. And while funguses can be great to have in the microbiome below the soil, you don't need too much. Too much water will drown and suffocate your plants. So slowing down how much water comes is key at this time of year. What else? The other thing is pest pressure. Pest pressure is moderate at this time of year. Actually, what happens is the bugs decline slightly in population as the rains get more and more intense. So it's like a catch-22, but there's still gonna be lots of bugs that are gonna be trying to eat your plants. And that may be a good thing or a bad thing. It can be a good thing if they're butterfly caterpillars. It can be a bad thing if it's a crop that you're trying to get a harvest off of. But typically the plants that we grow at this time of year, like sweet potatoes, okra, hibiscuses, they can take a little bit of a nibble and they're totally fine. And we often don't see that those are the plants that need some protection from bugs. It's the classic vegetables, which we'll want to be very mindful as we start our new seedlings that we give them that protection too. So if you haven't cleared out your classic crops from last season, you'll definitely want to protect your seedlings and keep them away from those, because you probably have some amount of bugs eating those down, and it becomes very easy for them to go eat old growth to very nice new fresh growth. So just something to watch out for and to think about is keep those new seedlings away from anything old and just clear out the old stuff so that the bugs that like to eat that kind of decrease in population in your area. This is why I have my planner, because I forget things. As much as I have in my head, I still forget things. But hey, it's August. You should be looking for strawberry starts. I totally forgot, especially North and Central Florida. Oh yeah, this is the time of year that we would actually go and start. I'm like, I didn't put it in my plan, did I? I think I did, maybe I didn't. Ooh, I don't know. But yeah, you can buy strawberry starts. Some of the ones that have done really well for people are Everbearing, Eversweet. Albion is a big favorite. Chandler, Quinault, those are the ones that you typically find at like the Home Depot, Lowe's when they sell strawberries, though they don't tend to sell strawberries at this time of year. They'll do it way later in the season and they'll have full plants. But you can order strawberry starts typically online at this time of year. I remember last year you guys gave me a lot of great feedback that the Plant City people, strawberry growers of Florida, if you didn't know, Florida is the top producer of fresh berries in the wintertime for the United States. You're welcome. Which means So a lot of them didn't get their starts going until October, and that's kind of like on your I-4 corridor. So if you're thinking about doing strawberry starts, but in August, I would start to be looking around, considering ordering, considering more at the end of the month. But I do want to remind you guys, especially North Florida, other things to think about. Okay, other things to think about. I think I mentioned the soil for topping off your raised garden beds, but because if you're starting your seeds, within a week or two of starting your seeds, you really should top off any of your vegetable garden beds. It's not unusual for your beds to have some drop in them. That's normal. So either put fresh compost or just buy some garden soil. When it comes to giant raised garden beds or in-ground beds, you just want to use garden soil. If you're in a container or a grow bag, you'll want to use potting soil. The big difference is basically how much of the perlite that they have in them. Is that like the little white stuff, little styrofoamy looking stuff? And that just allows for more oxygen to stay in the soil, which is a little bit harder for containers. But in the big open things, like these raised beds don't have bottoms, you don't need to worry about stuff like that. And I would just get traditional garden soil bed, and you can get like the green bag Miracle Grow stuff, or you could just like whatever brand to do. Other things to do. It's summer, it's awful, and you may not want to garden, and that's okay. It's okay if you don't want to garden. I also don't want to garden at this time of day. It's really too hot, it's too sunny, and I'm getting very sweaty very fast, and the mosquitoes are biting me. Which reminds me, wear protection. Protection means sunscreen. It also can mean bug spray. And it also can mean, because I know I get so many comments on this, yes, I wear jeans. I wear jeans to protect me. It protects me from the sun. It protects me from the bugs. And you may want to consider getting used to wearing jeans in the summertime. You don't have to. I know it drives a bunch of you nuts because you're like, I don't know how you survive, Jacqueline, in the jeans. I know. I've had a lot of time to get used to it. I worked in a factory without air conditioning for 15 years. So, you know, I couldn't run around in my shorts in there. So I was already used to it. But I will tell you, it does protect your skin quite a bit. And remember, it's important to protect your skin from all the mosquitoes, the sand fleas, and the sun. Because remember, Florida is the #1 state for skin cancer. So we need to do a lot to keep ourselves safe. Okay, so we talked about seed starting, we talked about the rain, we talked about the sun. Oh, let's talk about one of my least favorite things, which is weeds. The summer. Because there's so many things that we could just do in like little bits at this time of year, but there's one thing that likes to take off, and it's our invasive weeds. So let me go show you some that you might be seeing pop up in your garden right now, and you're wondering, what is that? Should I keep it? Is it native? Probably not. It's probably an invasive species, but let me show you. So if you do one of the tips that I tell you to do, which is mulch, back to Eden method, you might see this little guy starting to pop up. Oh, look at him. He's spread up into these beds. Fantastic. It looks like this. And then eventually you might see what looks like an onion bulb. It is not an onion bulb. It's an orchid. And now some of you go like, oh, it's an orchid. That's great. No, it's not a cute orchid. It's an ugly orchid. If you pull it, it smells kind of like cucumber. But below ground is a bulb, which I'm digging and digging. Where is it? Oh, it's not there. Maybe this one has a bulb. They're just so annoying. They spread by seed in the air. Here we go. And they will grow until they kind of look like little onions. They're not onions. They're not edible. They're not helpful. And this is an invasive species called Chinese crown orchid. The only way to get rid of them is to trash them or to put them in a solarizing bag Solarizing bags. And see, they put out these little things, and any little bit that gets left behind. Oh, that's just an oak. Incorrect. That's not an oak, that's a holly, and it's poking my hand. But a solarizing bag basically just like it makes it into mush and it cannot survive. It is a very problematic species that shows up in mulch. It's how it gets into most people's yards, and you can't really chop and drop it. It just keeps coming back. So you'll want to pull it, but you want to need to dig out the soil around it because you'll see there's little tubers that keep popping up everywhere. Other ones, here's a tassel flower. This is an invasive tassel flower, so you usually see kind of this. You can see in other types of colors. They look like this when they're beginning. You can pull them pretty easily, but by the time they flowered, they have thrown seeds everywhere. Over here, let me see. What do I got over here? Oh, this is this is native tropical sage. I can tell you that. That's because I have it in the back and it has just reseeded, and that's fine. This is, it's a stinky plant. Gets yellow flowers. Everyone will tell you how edible it is. It's a pain in the butt. Just get rid of it. What is this? I'm blanking. Someone throw it in the comments. I can't remember. My brain is becoming mush out here in the sun. All right, this is rouge plant. This is because of my own native plants. This is a native plant called Virginia creeper. It can cause irritation to your skin. It's great for native wildlife, but it's not great in your vegetable garden. So, you know, just check that. You'll notice a propensity of plants that birds like to eat right under my trellis, because they eat them and then they poop them right there so that I can find them. So I tend to know where a bunch of my weeds are because the birds bring them in, which we love the birds. I'm for the birds. I just don't want the invasive species. In your lawn, while most of my lawn over there is frog fruit, which is a native ground cover, over here I have a couple of invasive species that you might find in your garden. So down here, this is torpedo grass. This is awful. Lots of work to try to figure out how to get this one out. At this time, most recommendations are just for chemical removal, because manual removal is very, very difficult. You can even ask people in the native community. It's not a good one. It's very hard. Another one that's in here, where is it? Here you go, Asiatic daisy flower, which gets these cute little blue flowers. Very cute, bees love it. It's also invasive. Basket grass, also invasive. Oh, there's the dayflower, there you can see it. That's an invasive species. Now this part, you might say, I have that in my garden. I've seen that. It's got little matchstick head flowers. That's frog fruit, that's native. And yes, this is a lawn of it. I've been slowly propagating it and moving it around, and it's doing awesome. And you can use it as a lawn alternative, and I highly recommend it. Okay, back into the shade. The sun's too intense, I can't handle it. All right, let's think about what else you guys need to know. Oh yeah, speaking of the frog fruit, did you know it's a host plant? So you could have a lawn that's a host plant, which means the butterflies will put their eggs on it, which will bring caterpillars. The caterpillars will bring more birds to your garden. They like to hang out here and just little tiny caterpillars, but also then you'll get more butterflies, which is really cool. And something to think about with your vegetable garden, you should start a butterfly garden at this time of year. I know. Well, not a butterfly garden, a pollinator garden. Why, you may say? Well, we just talked about all the warm weather crops that we are thinking about growing at this time of year, and all of them, minus corn, require pollinators. Or even if they don't require pollinators, they produce more with pollinators. So by creating a pollinator garden at this time of year, you can bring in more and more bees and butterflies, which will help increase your harvest later in the season. When we are in late summer and fall, they'll be hanging around. They'll know your garden's a really great place, and you'll get more tomatoes and peppers and beans. What a great thing. We're gonna start a butterfly garden / pollinator garden, and you were looking for a couple native plants for you to get started. Here would be a few that I would strongly consider for this time of year. And those would be things like goldenrod, bee balm, our native one, swamp milkweed, and corky stem passion vine. Those are just a few of them that you should be able to just transplant and get from our native nurseries to get yourself a good start on pulling pollinators into the area. And you can just put them in something as small as a 10-gallon pot and just really drive up your vegetable harvest. Which, speaking of the natural stuff, let's talk about one of the big natural things that starts to become a problem at this time of year. We have talked about the monsoon deluges, but August is really the beginning of hurricane season. Okay, technically June 1st was the beginning of hurricane season, but having lived here for a very, very long time, it's very unusual for us to see hurricanes in June and July. But it's very common to start seeing them in August and then September and October sometimes, yes. But end of August, September, that's like the really big hurricane season. As you guys have seen throughout the years, we've evacuated and our neighbor got flooded twice last year from Hurricanes Helene and Milton. But this isn't my first hurricane. My first hurricane was actually in 1992 and was Hurricane Andrew. And I lived in South Florida. So one of the things I would recommend is just do a quick walkthrough of your garden and think about what are the things that might get moved by hurricane force winds that you might want to pull or move inside at this time of year. So things that I think about is, of course, like these giant pots, like how we're going to move them inside. We do have a dolly that we can use to move them inside. I do have a video that I shot with my dad, who has been an emergency services director for years for Broward County, Pinellas County, and had a lot of thoughts about what things you really need to move inside and what things like just leave it. And because of hurricanes, I always have this tip: get more seeds than you need. And the reason is because we've seen it year after year, how many people have started seeds and all the seeds have gotten destroyed either from the rains or mostly because as people had to rush around getting their houses prepared, shoving plants inside, or because they evacuated, they just got completely neglected. It is very common for you to start your seeds and then to have to restart them after the hurricanes or the potential of hurricanes is past. So just do yourself a favor, get yourself some extra seeds so that you don't stress about missing the classic vegetable season. And if you're looking for even more vegetable, fruit, and perennial flower plant ideas for the month of August, check out this video right here. And if you're thinking about grabbing the 2025 planner or pre-ordering the 2026 planner, click the link right here, or you can go to www.wildfloridian.net/planner. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.